Hello guys, for anybody who's been following me a lot, you know I have revolutionary not only ideas but facts that completely change your life. And I want to show you a couple of things. I'm going to try to compress them into one video because I don't do that many videos in English. But if you like it, comment and I'll make more in English. So I'll start with the first concept, which is one of the most important concepts. It's basically understanding self love. Self love has to do with most people don't understand really self love, and it took me a while to understand it for myself. Basically, self love is that you look at what is harmonious to your energy field, to your body, to your energy field, to your psyche, to your soul. So basically, you close your eyes, you feel your body, and you let your intuition guide you in terms of what right now would make me feel more harmonious. It could be meditation, taking a bath, receiving a massage, making yourself a cup of tea, whatever it is. The moment you decide for more harmony and you take action towards it, you're actually acting in self love. Now, the opposite is self hate, of course, if you decide for things which give you disharmony. So, accepting toxic people, accepting toxic situations, accepting stress, all of these things. And what you have to do is let go of that inner demon and that tries to keep you away from practicing self love. And I have a game where I say to myself, how much self love can I bring into my day, and how can I max it out? And that is seriously important for your health in any shape or form, and for your vitality and for your joy. So, self love. That's the concept of self love. I give you now basically a very simple blueprint where you can follow that. Just think about, closing your eyes, feel your energy field, your body, and think about what would be more harmonious for me right now. And it could be just sitting there in silence, accepting the now, whatever it is. So, the second one is toxic metaframing. That's a term I coined. I think there is a video on this channel explaining it. It's basically the ability to recognize toxic people already in the first few minutes, and the concept of handling it properly once you spot it. And toxic metaframing is when somebody has libido suppression. I have two terms, which is libido empowerment, libido suppression. Libido suppression is when somebody blocks their joy and sexuality, or they think it's blocked from the outside, so they project it towards someone else and try to punish the other person for their misfortune in their sacral chakra and their joy and joy and sexuality. So, for example, if it happens all unconsciously, it's very subtle. For example, you want to sleep with other women, but you're with your wife, and your wife is not giving you the joy anymore, and you're starting to be pissy about her when in actuality you just want to have sex with someone else, and you're blaming her for keeping you in a prison. That's one example. And guys do it uh, against each other a lot, because especially when they see someone else potentially having more sexual favors or more joy, or being competition, then they'll start to toxic metaframe, like you're nobody, what you're talking about is shit. And those are typical toxic metaframes. You're never gonna amount to anything. Those are kind of like, but they can be verbal, non-verbal, direct and indirect. Look up toxic metaframing on my channel to get more into that. It's an eye-opener. It will change all kinds of interactions, social interactions you have with someone. Now, the next thing is not really a concept, but it's probably the most important of all, which is spiritual awakening. The realization you're not your thoughts, you're not your body. And all you have to do is sit with the feeling. It's not actually a feeling, but you will get that on your own. Sit with the feeling, I am. Just I am. There's nothing that I know for sure, but one thing I know for sure, I'm here. I don't know as what, but I'm here. And that feeling of I am here as something, you're going to focus on that and you're going to let everything else pass by. Just the feeling, the permanent feeling of I know I'm here. Since birth, I know I'm here. And there reveals to you that you're not your thoughts, that you don't need your thoughts. Just to exist, basically. And with that silence, more and more your energies of the body open up, and you start to receive energies from above, which I call the heart intuition, which then tells you exactly what you need to do, when you need to do it, and so forth. Then there's a couple of like side concepts. One of them is understanding the importance of zinc in your body. A lot of people don't know the importance of zinc. I give you an example is when a sperm fertilizes an egg in a woman, there's an explosion of zinc. And scientifically, they can already measure that. There's a visualization of that. And that's because zinc is actually the kickstarter for life. It's part of the kickstarter of life. Without zinc, that wouldn't happen. And zinc is tremendously important in your entire body for all kinds of mechanisms, cell mechanisms, DNA, and so forth. Also, your sperm as a man, there's tons of zinc in there. And when you ejaculate 0.5 milligrams zinc. Now, if you don't eat meat and you don't prepare your meals properly, then it's very hard to get sufficiently zinc, and you want to have at least 15 to 30 milligrams per day, ideally 20 and 30 milligrams per day. And your body stores about 2000 milligrams, 2500 milligrams in different organs and parts of your body. And so you're actually in the best case, you're basically replenishing 1% per day of your entire zinc stores. And if you masturbate too much, chi masters know this, then you're basically depleting your zinc stores, and instead of using it for the functions in the body, it starts to go to the sexual organs, and thereby you're not having wound healing and all of that kind of stuff and other issues. So with I give you an example. My ex-girlfriend, one of my ex-girlfriends, she fell off of her bike, and she basically destroyed all of her skin on the leg. And it just happened before a pharmacy. When I went into this pharmacy, I get a zinc like gel, and I said put it on there. I helped to put her on it on this, and like a thick layer, and which normally people wouldn't do. They would put like a little bit. I said no, put a thick layer. Put like use almost everything. I said do this for like a week or two, and then when she removed it, she was like, "What the fuck?" Like there was absolutely no scar, nothing. And I had the same happening to my kind of like when I had a burn or something. So this zinc kind of like paste or gel really helps in wound healing, and those are indicators of the tremendous importance of zinc in your body. You should always have the maximum of what is healthy. Now, if you go too much, like 40 milligrams and more, and over time, then you get depletion of other things, because then other things are not being absorbed that well. So you don't want to shoot too high. I think the 20 to 30 milligrams is perfect over a longer time. Now, there are people who say it's okay if you take much more. I wouldn't bet on it. You always want to keep things in balance. The whole body works because it's in balance. And but having of something like this too little would be absolutely brutal. And by the way, it's also important in terms of testosterone. Zinc is super important in terms of testosterone and some other things for men as well. And I notice, for example, if I eat enough high protein and zinc, I feel much more like masculine, you could say. There are foods in which there's of course very high zinc foods, like beef, ground beef, salmon, sardines, lamb. Just do your research on that. It's pretty easy to find. So zinc is not a topic you shouldn't neglect. The other thing is that I noticed on my body is if I don't drink enough, like water, then something interesting happens. Is that if I get a zit somewhere, like here, let's say, it takes 3 times as much to heal unless I drink enough. So the more water I drink, the faster it heals. So if I drink water, I notice this. If you get older, you notice, and you're very observant, you notice these kind of things. So you don't want to have too much water, so you don't dilute your electrolytes and minerals. But it should be enough for the body to be able to work through the body and reduce inflammation, um reduce do the detox. Basically, water is super important for detox. So uh the next thing is fasting. I did a 4.5 day water fast, and if you don't know this, after 1 day autophagy starts, which is basically autophagy is basically when old cells are being discarded and eaten up, kind of. And then after 3 days, stem cell release happens. I think it's for the HSCs, which are in the bone marrow. Those are the stem cells that are in the bone marrow, and they're being released, and you can even reset your immune system with it. And I did this, and I had an interesting effect. And that's another. I'm talking about a lot of things that also allopathy or Western medicine doesn't talk about. So yogic science, and I was a tantra masseur for 4 years, doing 1,000 massages with women, and I can even give energy orgasms without touch and things like that. So, and after the fasting, what happened is my earwax was gone, like completely gone. Even like we're now over 1 month. I'm 1 month over after the fasting, the water fasting, and my earwax is still completely gone. And what I felt always, and I noticed this also with animals like dogs, is when inflammation is high, there's a lot of earwax and there's a lot of scratching on the ears with dogs. And but I used to have a lot of earwax, and sometimes it would be very dark, sometimes it would be like reddish or brownish. It didn't look good, and it seemed like it was related to inflammatory foods like pasta, gluten, wheat, anything that would be high glycemic, except like something like potatoes, but it was more like related to wheat and stuff, or sugar. And interesting enough is that since then it has completely gone away. And not only that, I feel like the 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 feces going to the stool is actually a little bit better. Not only a little bit better, I think it's a lot better. But I do have a side effect, which is I wake up at nights, which I didn't have before the fasting. And I think it's maybe my body goes into panic mode with sugar um and cortisol maybe. So at night, my body's I have to, but I have to say I'm hypersensitive. So not everybody's gonna react like I do, but a lot of people have only positive benefits from fasting. So I definitely, if you want to do a reset, I definitely would recommend like a 4 or 5 day water fast reset. But what you have to do is don't eat high glycemic foods after that. Start with something like bone broth, or kind of like a soup or vegetable soup, or like a chicken soup without anything in it. And then start to slowly ramp it up, but nothing that's high glycemic. So actually, lean chicken, small parts of lean chicken in your refeeding phase, or because the refeeding phase, read about the refeeding phase. It's the most important of the fasting. So after you stop the fast, how you start to eat again is crucially important, and can be even life dangerous if you do it the wrong way. So if you did like a 5, 6, 7 water fast or longer, and then you refeed incorrectly, it can be life threatening. No joke. So what you should do is first start like with soups, like one day soup, the next day like a little bit chicken or something, but nothing high glycemic. Read on it, and only small portions. So because the system is kind of like it has completely shut down, and now it needs to reboot, kind of. So that was my experience with the water fasting, but I'm not against it, although I have these experiences. So there's some positive, there's some negative. So I'll wait until the next year. I think once a year, like some people do Ramadan, which is not a real fast, but if you do like a water fast, I would, do maybe once or twice a year maximum, where you go into the stem cell reset. Maybe it's not even important to do it every year, but you want to go so far over the 3 days to get the stem cell reset, the stem cell release. And you're not going to get that with any other fasting than water fasting, by the way. And in the water fasting, I recommend to get some like Celtic salt or salt which has high mineral, even magnesium content. Super important. So because you want to keep that electrolyte balance as you go from one day to the next. And don't do much. Be careful how you know, just very very slow movements, but don't slouch the whole day, but just don't exert yourself on anything. So it must be planned. It's like a special kind of retreat for yourself, you could say. I mean, you should do that more like in your maybe in your vacation or something. And some people do just juice fasts. That's not the stem cell release. Okay, that's great for the intestine cleaning, but you can also use haritaki for that. Most people don't know this as a Ayurvedic fruit, which is extremely powerful for cleansing the stomach and the intestines. So I have tons of information, so subscribe to the channel if you see it for the first time. And sometimes it's just too much at one sitting. Now, yogis are mostly concentrated on balancing Ida Pingala, right? Balancing Ida Pingala energies. Those are nadis, the energy channels. And you have tons of energy channels. The three most important are Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. And the Pingala is that kind of which causes inflammation if over stimulated. And overstimulation can come from anything, from sexual stimulation to food stimulation to what you consume from the outside. And what you have to learn is bring the activate the ida, activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and learn to do this like a remote control, because then you get away from the inflammation in your body, because chronic inflammation is what actually causes the problems. And the emotional traumas that are stuck somewhere in the body, like for example, if you have anger and that's stored in the liver, then a lot of people use alcohol to push that down, but it just then resurfaces again, just stronger. But you have to work through the emotions to release it, otherwise you go into disease. And one of the ways to release this, you can do bija mantras, which is lam vam ram yam hum om mong, for example, or aung ong. And or you can do what I call nutty breathing. I invented that, I coined that. Or tapping, and this is a special type of tapping. It's called it Jay's tapping, because it's also very unique to what I kind of invented. I actually met by accident, by synchronicity, two girls who actually were working with this as well. And I saw an influencer and healer, she did as well. And so it was kind of like, it's interesting that we all found out kind of like the same thing. You see it sometimes in Qigong, but it's not exactly what I do. So let's start with the tapping. You pick a spot which is for yourself the problem. Let's say you have anger or pressure or pain around a spot, like let's say the liver. Okay, then you start to tap there. I'm just gonna tap more up here so you can see how I tap. So you go like this, and you keep on tapping so long until the emotion is released. This could take 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever. And what you learn is to pinpoint and tap exactly where the problem is. And sometimes it moves around a little bit, and you try to be very precise where you tap. And then eventually the emotion gets released, and you usually then, as it opens up, it's like an energy cloud. It travels up through the nadis, and comes to your eyes over here, and that's where it starts to get cried out. So crying is actually the release of the body's stored emotions in and they travel through the nadis to your eyes, and that's the cleansing. Okay, so the crying is the cleansing. Sometimes you might feel a stronger also saliva production. It's like the first push, and the second push is kind of like to your eyes. And it's important to get all of this out and stop the identification of what you think that the trauma is. So it's not like, oh my god, this happened to me in the past, but it's more like, oh, I'm releasing it, and then I don't have to identify with it anymore. So that's one way to release traumatic problems that cause severe diseases. Then the second thing is nadi breathing, which is you pick 2 points between two energy channels. You don't have to know them, you can just visualize them. So if you say here's a point and here's a point, and in the middle is a problem, okay, you have, for example, some kind of skin issue or something, disease, whatever, and you breathe back and forth, okay, then you visualize that there is an energy channel going between those two, and that starts to open up that blockage. And that's where then the energy flow, the chi prana, then goes again there to the tissue and starts to heal it. So that's the second way of healing something in your body. And cancer, for example, is nothing else than such an emotional trauma that it starts to separate from the core energy body. So it's like almost like its own life form energetically. And what you have to do is bring the consciousness there so you can reintegrate it, process through the trauma, release the trauma, and then the body starts to be healed again. And I noticed that with a lot of people that became very, very sick, is there was always like an decoupling of an energy which they never processed. So yeah, so that's another thing. Let me see if there's something else that comes to my mind. I think that's enough for now, and we're already 22 minutes. And if I have an extension, I'll make it. Feel free to comment.